Last season's run with the LMP2 cars gave us some fantastic racing in the PRL. So, with the old phrase, the more the merrier, ringing in their ears, the organizers have decided to bring back the previous class of GTE cars and make it a multi class series. It will no doubt create an interesting dynamic as we get ready to watch round one of the PRL LeMans series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. Sebring International Raceway will host the opening round and should fit right in. This place has hosted multi-class sports car racing for years, so why don't we head to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing, this is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curves are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course. Having just hopped over from another multi-class race last night here, it's certainly familiar territory on GSRC, but we don't always have viewers who watch every night, DJ, so why don't you go over what we're looking at today with these cars at this place?
Thanks, Joe. Well, you hit the nail on the head. Sebring International Raceway is truly one of the homes of American endurance and multi-class racing. These GTEs and Dallara LMP2s are going to have an absolute blast here. Plenty of places to overtake in both categories of cars. Look for the best places to be into turn one, that long, sweeping, open left-hander, down into the tight hairpin of turn 7. We may see a little bit of aggressive fightbacks, though, into turn 10, as well as the very famous final corner, Sunset Bend, that long right-hander. Many different lines to take through there, and you can really set up some good battles. But even with as many passing zones as there are, there's just as many areas to make a mistake. The tricky little back and forth coming through 3, 4, 5, always difficult, as well as getting the launch out of turn 16, LeMans, to blast down that back straightaway. Absolutely key, and you've got to get it picture perfect lap after lap.
Yeah, that's going to be tough out there for sure. It's known for being pretty punishing of these cars. Before we get to what the cars are doing on track right now, we want to remind you that today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
And the PRL LeMans series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Championship last season was a fascinating one, but Rodrigo Mies was the one that came away with the championship crown, just ahead of a tie between Paulo Munoz and Mauricio Cuero. The two incredibly tight in that championship fight all the way to the end. Karl Modoff, who is one to watch out for because he's looking good in the warm-up here today, he wound up third. I guess you could say fourth, technically, out of all of them, with David Holland and the next spot down, and then Christian Eisler wrapping up our graphic. What about the team's championship? How did that one wind up, DJ?
Well, it was a good battle all the way down, as Puto CL Racing Red was able to take it by just about exactly 50 points over Delta Sport U4K. Punto Racing Blue, however, a little ways back from them, about 50 again in third. Pure Sims eSports back from them, about 100 points back in fourth. And TQ Engineering Green just a hair off of them for fifth. So good battles all the way up and down the field. Hopefully we'll see another repeat of that this season, Joe.
And in case we have viewers who have not watched this series before, even though, well, it's changed a bit since last season with the new class, there you can see that's got you updated. We're on round one, but now they have two different classes, GTE and the LMP2s. That's what the Dallara P217 is. It's a 60-minute race just like last season, and it's also open setup, just as always. But they still have the 13-incident drive-through penalty and the 18-incident disqualification. Very tight constraints in this series. They don't mess around with the drivers in terms of making sure you keep it clean. They have some bonus points there at the bottom, one of which they're going for right now with the qualifying, which is going to be fascinating here, DJ, because in the past, it's always been single class here on Tuesday nights. Now that they've got multi-class, well, they've split them up, and it's solo qualifying. You only get 4 laps to make one happen.
You've got to be picture perfect, Joe, and Sebring is such a difficult track to do that at. Not only are you dealing with 17 corners on a very long circuit, lots of places to put a toe over the line, but it'll be a storyline throughout the race to watch the bumps here. What Sebring is absolutely notorious for. So easy to unsettle the car and just get a tire off into the grass. And for those of you familiar with the iRacing service, you know if you get over that and get that tire into the grass, you get a 1X and your qualifying lap is invalidated. So you've got to be picture perfect for every one of these 4 laps.
Already got drivers out, ready to set their first time. Takes a bit to get around here. I think it's a little over 2 minutes for our GTE cars even, as we're watching Owen Watts right now come down the Ullman straight. He's going to be among our first drivers to set a flying lap. So let's see what he can do. A few old names returning and a few new names that have we've never seen before on the Tuesday series showing up today as well. So we'll try and keep you abreast on what's changed around there. So Watts down into the line. His first one going to be a 45.6. That sets the marker. Cal Quinn is not able to match it. Waiting for Josh Wolf to put one down. He is also a little bit slower than the 666 car, interestingly. So for the time being, Watts is continuing to hold the top spot. Nope, not anymore. Karl Modoff, who I mentioned very fast in the warm-up, is continuing this speed in the qualifying.
And there, as we watch the first of those GTE drivers start to cross the line, that's Ash up there looking good, but is very quickly put below by Russo, Miller, and Romig. So this is going to be, I think, a lot of what we are seeing, Joe. These times are just going to keep falling and falling and falling as this session goes along. Brett Barrett there, a 58, not really good enough for him. Here comes Nicholas Delp across the line, a 55.9. Pretty good lap for him. That'll slot him in right at about 5th in class.
Drivers, in fact, I think he was quickest in the GTEs. Boris Angel Ovando, the number 22, his first lap did not count, so he's only got 3 more tries to get a good one in. As we've hopped on board with Leighton here, let's see what he can do as he comes down and puts one on the board. Should be hopefully a time that counts for him. Yes, it does. A 47.5. flat, and that will put him in 11th. That's a little far down, considering we only have 3 drivers that have yet to set a time in his class.
Yeah, he's going to want to be doing a lot better on his next lap, as there we see De Matteo crossing the line with a 46. That'll put him up to 8th there. You can see there the car just getting unsettled going through that turn 1 like I talked about. Good overtaking zone there, but the bumps making it very, very quickly. Here comes Calquin across the line. Looks like he is going to be able to improve a little bit on that time, but he's going to be in 3rd now.
Owen Watts improved by almost half a second, but he was 6/1000 shy of Karl Modov, who also found a little bit more time. Make that 0.3 the gap between P1 and P2. Marius Valiokas, there is a name we haven't seen in this series in a long time. And the number 7 machine has got himself on the 2nd row.
It's a very good run from Maliokas. Here comes Ash across the line. He's improved his time, bumping himself up to 4th place there. So great run from Ash. That GTE field relatively close across the board. Really just absolutely threw a blanket over him. As there we see Nicholas Johnson coming across the line. He's going to want to improve a 48, very slow. He puts in a great time of a 45.379. That he'll bump him up to the 3rd row in 6th. Here comes Justin Rim across the line.
Also an update on Ovando. He put himself into 3rd. Utman Alawi has gotten onto the front row behind Michael Ross as well. Justin Rame winds up 15th after that time through. So one more time with Leighton, slightly better, but he's still down in 14th. No, he just jumped up to 11th. Always takes a minute for our time and scoring to really register those. A name that we have not seen at the sharp end of the field for some time, Christian Eisler, is sitting in 4th, and he's half a tenth off of 3rd place. In fact, he's not too far off of 2nd even. He could find himself in the front row pretty easily, as the former pro Byron Daly sitting in 15th there. Now we go to Josh Wolf. Let's see what lap number 3 holds. Still yet quicker for the number 12, a 45.5. Looks like he does not take any spots up, though, as he stays in 7th. What about Karl Modov? Another fastest lap, and once again he puts himself a half a second clear of anybody else out there.
Modov is just in a league of his own tonight, it seems like, as here comes Ted Lowendick across the line, putting in his first time. That's going to be a 2:02. That is well off the pace there for Lowendick. That may have even been a warm-up, I'm not sure. But there it goes. You talked about him. Eisler bumping his way all the way up. That is 2nd place for him, putting him a 1/10 and a half behind Modov.
Wow. He is not messing around, and here to come and play with his old rival. Ovando's 2nd lap looks like it was not an improvement, so he'll stay in 3rd, as Nick Johnson is able to go up to P5 that time through. Kenny Rodriguez stays in 17th. So we head on over here to Nicholas Delp now in the number 999. It is going to be just a little bit slower, about 0.3 off of his last lap that time through.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of the drivers who are in those Corvettes and the GTE just a little bit down. Your top 3 make up of Michael Ross in one of the Fords, and then Alawi and Ovando both in the Porsches. 3 Corvettes following behind, so we'll have to see how that story plays out. Which of these GTE cars will really start to favor a track, and it looks like that the Vets are good, but may not be quite as quick as those who have mastered that Ford GT.
And time is running down. Now, they have 4 laps to try and put a good one in, but I think the GTEs will only be able to get 3 full laps in from what we're seeing as Josh Wolf crosses, and that's his quickest yet. That'll put him in P8. Karl Modov, his fastest lap was his last one. It keeps him 2 and some tenths clear over Christian Eisler, who's actually coming up towards the final corner right now. Let's go to the 727 car and see if he can deny his old rival the pole position here on his return up to the front of the field. It is a 45 flat. That is not his best lap, so that's not going to do it.
No, it's not. Here comes Ted Lowendick finally putting a time down. That's a 1:56. Its time really starts to wind down. So finally getting a time there for Lowendick, but here comes Sean Romig crossing the line. His current best at a 55.7 puts him in P9. This is going to be very close at the line. He is not going to have it. Yeah, he knew he didn't have it there.
And that's going to be it for our qualifying. So let's go through our starting grid for today. On the top, it is Carl Modoff with the pole, Christian Eisler in P2, and Felipe Ruiz starting in third. Christoph Herbino will start in fourth, the lone European driver out here today. Owen Watts starts fifth, and Horatio Calquin will be P6. Inside of row four, it's Nick Johnston. You've got Marius Valiokis to his outside in eighth, and Raymond Day in ninth position. Then it's Josh Wolf rounding out your top 10. Tien Sai C. Layton is starting in 11th, and Daniel Zagers will start in 12th. Dawson Brock, one of our commentators even on the channel, has hopped out to apply his trade out here, and he'll start from 13th. Byron Daly will be next to him in the 14th spot, followed by Ricardo De Matteo in 15th, and the last of the LMP2s will be Jared Turnbull in 16th.
Leading off for the GTEs is going to be Michael Ross in that Ford GT, followed by Uthman Alawi in second. 21st overall is going to be Boris Angel Alvando, followed by Nicholas Borand behind or outside of him. Alessandro De Tullio is fifth in GTE, followed by Rafael Russo in sixth. Stephen Ash and Tyler Dezube are going to be making up that next row. Sean Romig and Mac Miller lining up at 25th and 26th overall. Nicholas Delp and Simon Advital in 28th. In row 15, though, Federico Montini, followed by his brother Francisco Montini. So a brothers row right there. Behind them, lining up in row 16, will be one of the series organizers here, Jerome, followed by Kenny Rodriguez in 17th, Aaron Webb. Behind them, 18th in class, Ted Lowendick, finally getting that time on the board into a 19th in class. Flanagan lining up to the outside of him in 36th overall, and then bringing up the back of the field is Brett Barrett and Harrison Proshaka and Brian Vorchi leading it all off.
39 cars out there today. Pretty full field, but not the biggest we've seen out here. Still, I'm sure it'll be a bit frantic. And these cars do have a fair bit of distance between themselves when it comes to average pace. So everybody's going to have to keep their head on a swivel here for the opening round of the PRL LeMans series. Taking off behind the Porsche pace car, Carl Modoff leads them. You can see they're putting a little bit of a split between the two classes just to give some time between them so that they don't run over each other into the first few corners. This is going to be a fun one at the least, but also fascinating to me just because we've now got two different disciplines out there, and we've seen as this Tuesday night series has kind of fluctuated between what runs. Certain drivers seem to be a little bit better in those certain disciplines, DJ.
Most certainly, and it'll be absolutely fascinating to see what happens. And now that multi-class has been back and reintroduced here, the biggest thing for these LMP2 drivers is going to be that lapped traffic, the slower GTE cars. How well are they going to be able to dispatch them? Are we going to see the sort of nightmare scenarios you've seen a couple times of LMP2s taken out of GTE there, or vice versa? You've got to do it right. It's one of the things that makes multi-class absolutely fantastic, is there is never a dull moment after about the first lap and a half.
Yeah, I think the randomness of this series might have been raised significantly with this change, which should give us a fun championship, undoubtedly. We're coming up to Cunningham, one of the good places to try and overtake, and of course then one of the more technical spots. Now, again, we saw these two classes with the addition of another class in there last night with the Autobahn Sports Car Challenge. It was kind of interesting that we saw, DJ, the LMP2 drivers seemed kind of split on downforce philosophy. Some put a little bit more in it, some put a little bit less, and that greatly affect how the passing was between them.
Most certainly, and it's one of the things that makes Sebring so special. Is it's a little bit similar to Le Mans, one of its sister tracks, in that way, is that the first two sectors of this lap, utterly technical, a lot of quick switchbacks, slow corners, that kind of thing. And then you get on from about Tower all the way to Sunset, and you're on full power for about 75% of the time, so you need that low downforce. You may see some guys running super low downforce. You may see some of that mid-range or going high. It's going to mean that these guys will be better at certain points in the track. So very much something to keep an eye on of who's got those fastest sector times, who's quickest through certain areas, and who can blast down that Holman straight.
Which they trundle down right now behind the Porsche pace car. But you can expect plenty of slipstream fights to erupt, especially with these cars and all the downforce that they carry, punching a decent hole in the air. What is Modov going to be able to do up against Christian Eisler? We were even trying to discuss, I'm trying to remember when the last time Christian Eisler won a race in the PRL. We're going to have to dig a little bit through the archives to see if we can get that stat out, but feel free to chime in if anybody in the peanut gallery has that one on hand. Apparently, we're also hearing that it is Carl Modov's birthday today. So, who wants to try and deny the birthday boy a victory, or is he going to get to celebrate in style? Pace car is in, and green flag is out. Carl Modov takes off for round one of the PRL LeMans series, and he is got a great start. Christian Eisler has to slot into line. In fact, the top five are all single file. Battle for sixth place. That is between Cal Quinn and Johnson. Looks like they're through good. Let's go back to the GTEs.
GTE cars looking there like Ross got caught napping at the start. He is down 2 spots. Alawi all the way up into first now. Nicholas Borand up 2 into second. So those top 3 really shuffling around, but keeping it nice and clean here through that tricky technical section after turn 3.
Great to see a nice clean start, and I spoke too soon. We got a car that was a couple cars spun in the LMP2s. 3 of them. Raymond Day is in there. Daniel Zegers and Cal Quinn all off. Now, Cal Quinn got some help. The other 2, I think that might have been on their own, and unfortunately, you can see they've already been caught by our GTE class cars, and this makes life all the harder for their race.
And it makes it all the harder for those GTE cars as they've got to try to keep their racing line, worry about getting past and not getting in the way of the LMP2s. This is going to add a massive wrinkle for these guys, and especially for these GTE drivers.
We're following as I believe this is Raymond Day trying to work his way through. Cal Quinn is a little bit farther up amongst them. We're going up to Ruiz, farther up in the LMP2s. Felipe currently trying to fight for 4th with Herbino just in front of him in the number 92. They swing it into Sunset Bend. Also look at Owen Watts. They're relatively close to the podium here. So the 18 under a little bit of pressure is way wide. Felipe Ruiz pushing the edges of the track.
And you can do that coming off a Sunset. It's one of the things that makes it so fantastic. Do you carry a lot of speed into the corner? Do you carry a lot of speed out of the corner? Whatever you want to do is there you see that's the 58 where he's poking his head to the inside, trying to see if he's going to get a move. He's going to keep it in line through turn 3, back through this tricky turn sequence of 3, 4, 5. He may be in line here a little bit later on to make a pass, but it looks like he's fallen back just a little bit.
Can we get a replay of Boris Ovando, the 22 car, coming out of Sunset Bend? He got a 2-for-1 deal with some fantastic driving. He just outgunned the other 2 that he was with. Let's see if we can get this on screen here. Here we go.
There we go. That is Ovando there in that RSR Porsche. Oh, there you go, Joe. Exactly what I was talking about. Carry the maximum speed out of there. 1, 2, 3. He is gone. Great drag down the front stretch for Ovando. Move him up 2 spots.
And though he's in second, he's got a bit of a gap up to Utman Alawi, who's currently leading the way in the 444, about 1.1 seconds between them now. So he's got some work to do. They've been left alone as Cal Quinn was able to make his way past all of the GTE class cars. Well, let's head back up to our LMP2s, though. That battle for 3rd between Watts, Herbino, and Ruiz. Looks like Ruiz dropping back a little bit. You can see him 3rd in line. But Herbino 2nd in this train, continuing to apply a lot of pressure to the number 18.
He is. He's going to be driving in his mirrors. There you see it, those multiple lines through Sunset. I know I keep coming back to it, but I just love that corner. And so now we watch Herbino just trying to figure out anything. Didn't get the maximum angle coming off of the corner, but he's going to keep everything nice and smooth here. Ooh, a little bit over the line there. May have picked up a minor 1X. I'm not sure exactly where the off-track warning is there, but you can see it here. You can almost feel those bumps as you come up and over here. Sebring, of course, an old aerodome. dome and built on airstrip land. So that's one of the reasons why we get these amazing bumps.
And also interesting to note that switched it around. It was Herbino attacking Watts. Now it's Ruiz attacking Herbino. Can't get side by side down into the hairpin, so we'll have to sit tight. If we jump a little bit farther back from them, boy, Byron Daly, who has climbed all the way up to 7th. Didn't he qualify 14th? Yeah, oh my goodness, what a start for the number 6 car. But look behind him, Valiocus, Wolf, Leighton, Brock, all still right hot on his heels.
Yeah, this is really developing into something special. And Joe, you mentioned it at the top, that draft down the Ullman Straight. This is going to be a mega draft train. These guys in the back able to just suck up behind and take maximum advantage of the cars in front of them, cutting off that clean air. So that's going to be mega for them. Look for some good moves maybe down here into Sunset.
Looks like Leighton managed to get by Wolf. He and his teammate Brock are now one behind the other in 10th and 11th. I'm sure they're not going to sit down and take that one. Wolf is a fierce fighter, appropriately, in that number 12. In fact, he's got a good slipstream, and he's going to take a little bit of a peek down to the inside of Sunset Bend. Can't quite make the pass, though. His teammate going very wide behind, has to check up, and Dawson Brock finding the wrong way through Sunset Bend.
And that was a great move there from Leighton, just cutting off Wolf, making sure he had absolutely nowhere to go. But now you see them working their way back here. Still nothing separating any of these drivers, just keeping maximum pressure on each other.
Working their way through some of the more slower corners here, and then up towards Big Bend. They get to pick up speed, get on the throttle on their way down to the hairpin. It does not appear that he's really got a good chance at it. Was that a pass in front of them? I thought I saw Daly. Oh, no, that was Daly defending from Valiocus. Had a little bit of a look.
Yeah, he was thinking about it, not pushing too hard on it, but just a little bit of a thought.
Oh,
that's one of the things you can. Here he comes, here he comes.
Oh, got to the inside, but once again, the number 7 just can't seem to do anything with the number 6. So I'll have to sit still as they come out of Tower Corner, and a big bobble from Valiocus, but he catches that LMP2 and keeps it going.
Good catch there from him, and this may be an instance of what you were talking about with the downforce setups, that Valiocus maybe just be running a little bit more downforce to keep himself, or a little bit less downforce rather. Maybe he'll be able to make the move here as he really starts to put the power down, looking to challenge Daly right up behind him in the slipstream. Here he comes on strong. I think he's going to go for the move here.
He's got to the inside, but he breaks a little bit earlier than Daly, who sends it in deep. So let's see if the outside line is going to offer enough momentum. Not quite. It's a drag race down the front stretch between Daly and Valiocus. Marius has the inside. Can he complete the pass? No, he has got the outside, excuse me. And no, he's not going to be able to get it done. Still has to continue to working hard on Daly. As all this has been happening, just an update. Ovondo's up into the lead. Alawi has fallen to 3rd. I had to go back and check. I'm afraid we probably won't be able to get a replay, but Alawi made a mistake out of Tower Corner, went into the grass, didn't hit anything, but he fell down 2 positions.
So he's able to continue back on. We watch here, though, we're staying on board as they work their way through the hairpin. Nothing doing there. It's a very, very tricky place to pass, Joe. A lot more challenging of a corner than you'd think at a very flat track like this at Sebring, but you've got to be very brave on the brakes if you want that to work.
Drew Cunningham, once again, all this back and forth between them has allowed Leighton to close the gap. Now that he's passed up Josh Wolf, he's focused forward, seeing if he can get higher among the top 10 runners. Once again, very loose wheel spin in the exact same spot that we saw last lap for Valiocus.
Yeah, just not able to get that power down. It's one of the tricky things in these LMP2s. You see a lot of times when they come through those slower corners, drivers will keep the gearing up actually into 2nd, not dropping it in 1st. It is so easy to spin those wheels.
Let's leave these drivers for just a moment, where we've got a lot of them plugged together here in the GTEs. Dzube in 7th is being trailed by Michael Ross, Sean Romig, and Alessandro De Tudillo. And behind them, change for position as Francisco Montini passes his brother Federico. So give Francisco P11 in class.
Yeah, he's moving his way up, and you can see just up the road there, just something to notice, Michael Ross falling down the order. He's a couple of cars up the road. There he is on your screen, that lone Ford GTE driver. He started off on the pole. He's down 7 positions. So that lone GTE, or that lone GT rather, clearly not having long run pace here.
Checking his lap times. Now, he did have a bit of a slow one on lap 3, so I wonder if he made a bit of a mistake then. It looks like I was about 4 or 5 seconds off. He must have had an off track or something in there. He's right now trailing behind Zube into Sunset Bend. Very different lines among the 3 of them. Oh, and Alawi, is he going to be able to get past on Bernand? He's on the outside of Bernard. Nicholas tries to defend, and it's going to be successful. Alawi isn't able to get back into second place. Still, he's got 49 minutes left to go in this hour-long race. That's plenty of time. He clearly has the pace, but I have to wonder if this is costing him a chance to catch up to Ovando. Is this going to hurt his chances of trying to claim the win?
It very well might, as Ovando now just a massive gap, 4 tenths ahead, but we're going to jump up to this battle for P3 in LMP2 as this has just really started to heat up, this battle with Watts and Herbino.
Herbino was right on top of him coming into Sunset Bend. Couldn't withstand the wake, though. You could see him trying to get a little bit of air on the nose, going shallow into the first corner. Doesn't pay off enough, though. Felipe Ruiz starts to gain little bits here and there as we hop on board with Herbino. The 92 has a very clear view of the driver ahead, but it's one thing to catch a driver, it's a whole nother to pass him.
Very much so, and you mentioned it there, that him having to do these battles, taking suboptimal lines through the corner, maybe braking a little bit earlier, that's allowing Ruiz to catch up. It's one of the big disadvantages through this middle section of Sebring. Very hard to get the pass done. You'll lose tenths, even half a second a lap if you're caught up behind a slower car. And that kind of looks like it's exactly what's happening to Herbino here, but you can see how close he is to the back of Watts as they work their way out. If he is able to keep this up through Tower and through Le Mans, he may be able to get a chance for a good draft, though.
Just has to bide his time, wait for the opportunity, and maybe it'll come his way. As they come through Bishop. That is Watts in the number 18, leading the pair that you see. Herbino in the number 92 behind them. Felipe Ruiz in the number 58 car. On to the Ullman straight. I don't think that Christopher is close enough.
I don't think he is either. He's certainly going to be close enough to think about it and maybe just make him imagine some pressure. But as they dive into Sunset, he is just going to have to hold his breath there. Maybe he can get a better line, running a very wide angle, trying to keep up maximum momentum. Barely catches it before the grass. They now go back down the main straightaway. Watts looking like he's still going to have the advantage here. Herbino just not able to do it. Joe, I'm going to make a wild speculation here and say I think Herbino's running a little bit more downforce than Watts is.
I think you may be right, but it's going to get fascinating in a moment because Karl Modov is just about caught up to the tail end of our GTE drivers. Now begins the real fun as the 948, you can see him approaching down into the hairpin as we got a car returning to the track. Brett Barrett off to the side, trying to find a safe way to return. Not sure what happened. I'll try and check on that later.
And this is where that multi-class field comes into play. Now, if you are a GTE driver, your prerogative, what you should be doing is just drive your racing line. Let Modov and any of these LMP2 drivers go around you. They have to find a way by. You don't want to pull off to the side and do something unexpected. That is a big no-no. The LMP2s may have to get a little bit onto the grass there, may have to do a little bit of evasive action to get around, but the most consistent way around the track for the GTEs is the most thorough and the best way to make sure that nothing catastrophic happens.
We had a wreck between Alessandro Di Tullio and Francisco Montini. Unfortunately, that happened in Jean Dembien. Francisco had to take a tow. Excuse me, Alessandro had to take a tow. Francisco kept going. Meanwhile, we jump up here to one of our fights in the GTE class. Utman in second is being chased by Bernand, Ash, and Russo.
Yeah, Ash, Russo, Bernand really trying and doing a good job of catching back up here. Looks like they're going to be on him in a matter of seconds here. Those all really different cars obviously coming up there. We've got a Porsche, Corvette. It seems to me the two favorites here, but this train really starting to develop. Alawi looking like he's got just a hair of an advantage, but nothing enough that a mistake can't wipe away.
Behind them, also things very hot between Ross, Avital, Dzube, and Romek. In fact, I'm pretty certain they've changed positions since we've last looked to where nobody is where we last saw. There you can see the number 13 of Tyler Dzube on the gearbox of Simon Avital as they come towards Tower. Not able to do anything on the Porsche for the time being. Ross on his climb back forwards, at least is at the front of the train, but I'm sure he'd like to leave all this madness behind.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. No matter how good and concentrated of a driver you are, if you see that kind of battle happening in your rearview mirror, it is going to pull just a little bit of focus away from you. May make you break a centimeter or two later on and slightly disrupt you. So he's definitely going to want to be getting as far away from this as he can, hoping he's going to be able to pull away and not have to deal with anything. Looks like he's got a little bit more speed down that back straightaway, so that is the first start for him.
And on the inside that car, you can see Sean Romeg, who's going to be able to overtake Dzube into Sunset Bend. So give that Porsche number 71 8th place in class. Also, don't forget that our leaders are going to start hitting this soon. It's always a lot harder to try and pass cars that are battling for position than it is just one by one picking them off.
Very much so, and as a GTE driver, you sit there and you go, I don't want to let you by. I got to deal with this. I can't lose any time. And so it becomes that sort of catch-22 from all sides as you start to get through it. But these guys are pros. There you can see the LMP2s popping up in the back of their screen, so they are going to be upon these guys, I would say, within maybe a half a lap.
Absolutely. That is our leader, Carl Modoff. You see him on screen, the 948 approaching the back of Francisco Montini. Behind Dzube, Romig, Avital, and Ross. So how is he going to deal with this? He doesn't want to lose too much time. He's only got 3.3 seconds ahead of Christian Eisler. So he really can't afford giving away that much.
He's going to be catching him at just the wrong time. That right there is, I believe, Cunningham. Hard area to get those passes done, but everybody playing nice and smart here. There's that move we talked about. You can see they're ahead of him, that Porsche getting back onto his anticipated racing line. Very hard to predict if you're offline, but thank goodness Modoff able to get through it. These next couple of guys in front of him, that's going to be Avadi and Ross. He'll be able to catch them probably on the Ullman Straight, which is exactly where you want to catch them if you're an LMP2.
Oh, and looks like Leighton, the number 2 car, is off at Tower Corner, and he had some help. It was Valiokis into the back of him. That sent him all the way off into the tires, and hopefully he doesn't have too much damage. There's the incident right there.
And here we go. We're going to take a full view of it. A little bit of lapped GTE traffic in front of them. Valiokis right behind there. Here comes Leighton. Oh, looks like Valiokis just didn't anticipate exactly when Leighton was going to be popping on the brakes. And looks like Leighton is now in the pits, so some pretty heavy damage to that LMP2 of his.
Must have been to the suspension. It did look like it was wobbling kind of weird when he tried to accelerate. Sad to see, though, because he was holding in the mid-pack quite well before that went down. So where are we in terms of the leaders coming past each other? I think Modoff is getting close to being past all the GTEs pretty soon. He is currently just going by P3, actually, Bernand, who did lose that one to Alawi. So Utman back up to second while we were watching some of the action elsewhere in the fields, and that was Modoff just going by now.
And he's been able to pull Alawi. That is a pretty decent gap ahead of him. So good for him to be able to keep there. He's going to be able to breathe a little bit easier there. You can see what it is, just starting to really extend the best he can.
Vando's gap to him is 6.2 seconds. That's quite a bit to pull back, but there's plenty of traffic that could compromise them. And let's not forget, there are pit stops yet to happen. Side-by-side action between Delp, Rame, and Valiokis and the LMP2s in the middle of it all. Looks like Rame holds on to 11th. Delp behind him. A bit of an awkward corner for Mac Miller. So he drops off the tail as Josh Wolf now begins to split them up. He's going to hope to try and get by before they get up to Sunset Bend. Can he clear them all? Just barely. And that is a sigh of relief from all parties.
And it looked for a second there like Delp was going to have a move up the inside of Ream, but that decided to think better of it. Just holding back here. Still about 40 minutes to go in this session, so plenty of time. There you see that is Ream taking a little bit of a defensive line, but that bad line is going to allow for Lowendick to challenge Delp there, but Delp able to hold it together. Lowendick being very smart. Ooh, he's not done yet. Here he comes.
Yeah, that's Mac Miller actually that's on the attack. Doesn't make it work down into turn 3, but clearly he's got some good moves. And the car feels good. Lowendick has got to be sweating. They're going to be split up by Cal Quinn. He'll easily be able to weave through them on the way up to the hairpin. Lowendick stays safe for at least for a brief while. Behind them, Dawson Brock now approaches.
Yeah, all of this constant battling, just bringing everybody absolutely into each other, making it very, very difficult to focus on the race at hand. But this battle is absolutely spectacular. There you see more and more of those LMP2s working their way through the field. That's going to separate them out just so slightly.
And again, this is some of our top spots here. Or excuse me, this is for some of our mid-pack spots here in the GTEs, fighting for 12th, 13th, and 14th. Let's head up to P3 and the LMP2s, though, because Herbino is continuing to stick glued to the gearbox of Owen Watts' number 18 machine. I think they must have just gotten by all of our GTEs. Yeah, they just passed them all, so they survived that round. But Christoph is, well, he was incredibly tight. Now, as soon as we go to the battle, of course, it starts to dissipate.
Yeah, the reverse commentator's curse there. But, yeah, getting through that first round of GTE's massive confidence booster. You start to get to figure out, okay, this is what these guys are going to do at this corner. But here comes Herbino. He's got the look. This is the long drag down into turn 7, the hairpin. He's got that move done. Move him up above Owen Watts.
And I suspect that was facilitated a little bit. Watts looked like he slowed up, saw the writing on the wall, and Christoph is now onto the podium, 1.3 seconds up to reach Eisler. It's not impossible for him to try and overtake the Iceman. However, Christian might be saying goodbye to his chances at the lead as the race goes by, because he's been slipping backwards from Modov. It's now up to 4.7 seconds currently.
Modov just absolutely the class of the field. Even if you look at his fastest lap compared to the rest of everybody, Eisler sitting with the fastest lap of 45.693. Modov a full half a second faster with a 45.127. So Modov has just got this car dialed in. There you see Eisler, Herbino, and Watts on your screen. Modov nowhere to be seen.
He is in another dimension right now for sure. And so it took, what, about 15 minutes, I want to say, for them to reach them the first time. Oh, and our leader is actually in. Karl Modov is pitting. And this is early, though. Usually cars in this in the LMP2s, they tend to try and go long, and they usually go about 35 minutes. So I'm not sure why we're seeing Modov decide to go for a stop now.
I'm not sure either, Joe, especially considering, you know, we're at relatively low track temperatures. You're obviously not going to want to take any new tires. You don't want to deal with having to re-warm up those tires. Maybe he's just thinking where he will come out, it prevents him from getting into any more GTE traffic. He's got a gap behind him, something along those lines, but I'm not sure.
We're watching to see if he does come out amongst them. Because my thought was, well, I mean, he'll probably have to retake all those GTE cars if he does it now. and that's going to slow him up. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe the fuel consumption is just a little bit higher than we anticipated it. Looks like Jared Turnbull also pitted. So he's looking for his stall. Actually, Turnbull's already in his stall. I'm not getting any timing and scoring for his stop, which is odd. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Meanwhile, let's check in on third in the GTEs. Stephen Ash just ahead of Rafael Russo. This has been close for a couple laps now. Russo continuing to ride in the tire tracks of the number 11. They hit Tower Corner. This is a case where I could see maybe Russo would want to pit a little bit early to try and jump the likes of Ash, but just to, I guess, drive the point home and why we're so flummoxed about Modoff is he had nobody to try and do that sort of thing with.
Exactly. He was in a class of his own, but we are getting a couple of reports here that Modoff is having some sort of fuel issue, either in the sim or on the car, showing no fuel for him. So that's why he chose to dive in at this moment, Joe.
I guess maybe he just decided not to run the car out and figured pit as early as you can and make sure I'm safe to the finish sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that may be the best way. Better safe than sorry. If he knows he can get 35 minutes on a tank of fuel, might as well come in and not have to run any risks. But as we stay with this battle here, the interior of that new Corvette, this is Rafael Russo just trying to find his way by, looking for absolutely anything he can do. A little bit of kickoff into the grass there for Stephen Ash. They're going to Constantina up here, really tight through 3 and 4. I don't think Russo's going to be close. Ooh, maybe I spoke too soon there. Good jump off the line. Only about 0.2 of a second in between these two. If he's brave, he may be able to make a move, but I think he's going to hold back.
I think that'd be quite a dive. He is going to pull him into within about 2 car lengths. They both brake hard into the right-hander of turn 7. And still Russo, like you said, very good off these corners. That Corvette certainly looks like it's got great acceleration, which is surprising because that's what the Porsche tends to be known for, is coming strong off those slow corners and down into the braking zone once again. Russo, not only good off the turns, but into them as well, but he just hasn't found the opening he needs.
Well, and driving that Corvette is going to make it a little bit more difficult for him to get by into a heavy braking zone. It's a really great car, obviously relatively new to the iRacing service, only about a couple of months old. But one of the things about it is the brakes are very, very sensitive. When you get onto them, you cannot have any sort of throttle whatsoever, or there will be a very dangerous wobble as you get into the braking zone. Very easy to lock up the front tires, but it is a very, very pointy car. You can really get it to turn in exactly where you want it to. And so the corner entry for that Vet is very good, but then you've got to be careful. We're going to jump back, though, to a great LMP2 battle.
Yeah, and Daly just lost that spot to Horatio Calquin, who's going to claim P8. Now, this had some interesting things happening. This started off of Sunset Bend. Watch behind them, too, and you'll see Dawson Brock just glaze the outside barrier.
Good job for Brock there to keep it together, but there you see that draft down the pit lane straightaway for Calquin. A little bit later on the brakes, a little bit of a tighter line, pushes out Daly ever so slightly into it and just takes it away. Good driving there from Horatio.
Good fight here amongst our mid-packers. Worth noting, remember, Josh Wolf was with them not too long ago, and, well, he is way ahead. In fact, 9.3 seconds ahead of him. So clearly Josh Wolf has no interest in remaining in that fun. We're just about at the halfway point, so who do we see try to break this one up in 2? We're used to seeing these GTE cars go rather late, expecting to see them in maybe as far as 20 minutes left in the race. We head to 6th place in that class, Simon Avital. He's just ahead of Dzube, and they're going to be split, it seems, as Leighton, who is actually trying to get his laps back from them. Remember, he wound up in the wall and had to take a lot of repairs, so it's a slog back through. before he can even get clear of all these GT cars. Now he's past Avital and Dzube. That's Romig. That's still for position. Same thing with Montini behind them. So all 4 of these GT cars that you see on your screen are still fighting for spots.
Yeah, they're keeping this as a very, very close battle, and they are doing their best to do it, but absolutely no way to take the draft away from those 3 leading Porsches right there, who looked like Avital took a little bit of a different line. Dzube thought about diving down the inside of him, but thought better of it. Let's see if he can make anything happen here down the pit straight.
Just doesn't look like any of them are quite close enough. I'm sure Dzube would like to try something. Once again, drivers taking different lines around here, and whatever works for them is probably best, but Dzube's does not work as well for him as Avital, who stretches away, and now Romig gets ever closer to the rear wing of the number 13, down through 4 and 5 onto Big Bend, and everybody starts to spread equidistant apart from one another.
Yeah, just absolutely nothing separating those Porsches at the moment. You see them, they're falling by in pretty much perfect equidistance, but now Romig looks like he's a little bit better on the brakes. They're able to catch up to Dzube. He may be able to start to think about lining something up. Not going to be close enough into Cunningham unless he is very late on the brakes, but I think he can play this exactly right. There you go. But behind them, they've got another LMP2 coming on, so they've got to be careful to make sure that they keep an eye out for him.
Let's keep the cameras on here, but just an update for those who haven't been watching the tower. Remember I mentioned that Alawi had a mistake and that set him back into second. Well, it stayed almost perfectly at 6.5 seconds between himself and Ovando. So I think Ootman's going to be kicking himself after this is over, knowing that he essentially gave away the win. His pace is even, so he had the track position, but now he just can't do anything to claw it back.
Can, and that is the worst thing in the world when you know you got the pace. There you see that is the 77 of day coming on by these guys. Hopefully he'll be able to clear it in just enough time. Looks like he's going to be able to get it into the braking zone. There you see smart move them from them trying to just hold, or Alawi trying to hold it all together. That does allow for guys to catch up a little bit better.
Right on board there with one of our LMP2s looking back at that battle amongst Avital, Dzube, Romig, and Montini. In fact, Dzube once again much tighter down to the inside wall of turn 1 than Avital. This time, though, it goes much better, and he gains a little bit of time, taking a lot of curb, everybody aggressively bounding over them as they come onto Big Bend, and it looks exactly like it did last lap, where they just suddenly spread apart.
Yeah, it does. I think if I'm Tyler Dzube right now, I've really got to be thinking about how to press my advantage in the last corner and onto the first corner. That's where he looks like he's got it. When they get into that tricky section of 3, 4, 5 and into sector 2, it looks like Avital is just able to start to eke away. So that's what I've got to be doing if I'm Dzube.
And we've had 2 more pitters in the LMP2s. Nick Johnston and Josh Wolf have both come in, and I do believe these are scheduled for each of them. This quartet of cars coming up to Bishop has been some good excitement these last couple laps. Well, I'm sure Avital would like to be able to do what Ross did, which is get by everybody and then leave them in the dust. Ross now about 3 seconds ahead of the 4 of them.
Yeah, that Ford looks like it's starting to come into its own ever so slightly. You can see there also just ahead of them, that is Ash and Russo battling out for that final podium position. So these guys are all very, very close on track. All of these GTE cars very, very tight no matter which way you look at it.
Man, I mean, speaking of tight, you saw there that Dzube was nearly pushing Simon Avital through that corner. He was very close, and this time he's going to be able to get side by side. He likes that inside line. He knows how to drive it, and he's going to be clean through as Avital now is under threat of losing 2 spots. Romig thinks he's got a chance. He's going to get down to the apex. He can't close the door. He's getting freight trained, and Avital is down to 8th in the blink of an eye.
And that's what can happen in these GTE battles, but it looks like He's not done with Sean Romig quite yet, poking this way and that as they get ready to dive down here into Cunningham. He's going to try to go to the outside. No, he's going to go for the over-under. Little bit of checkup there from Romig. That's going to give Avitol a good blast off of the line. There he goes. He's got a nose. I think he's got that position back. He indeed does.
Wow, some brave stuff from Avitol. He's got to defend, and Romig, who could have attacked, decided not to. Backs off and tries to square up for another one. We've had more drivers in the LMP2s in. Ruiz, Valiokas, Dawson Brock, Byron Daly have all pitted now. We're still waiting on Eisler, Herberneau, Watts, and Cal Quinn. And that was Romig. Big save for the number 71. Let's watch the replay on this one.
There you see, gets over the line, gets those left tires into the dirt, throws him off kilter, but he's able to catch it and keep on going, but not before he lets Francisco Montini and Justin Ream by. But he is only about 1.2 seconds back from the rest of that train, so everything is not over yet for Sean Romig. He still has a chance if he can just get his focus back together.
You ask Romig how to do a magic trick, he'll tell you fast hands. That saved his bacon for sure. Keeps it going. In fact, he's going to pit now, maybe for a change of pants after that one, as he pits from 10th. And Eisler just came in right behind him. That is our leader in the LMP2s. All the others are going to follow. So I think that's the end of the fuel window for our fastest class.
I think you're right. The only one who looks like they may be staying out is Cal Quinn. I think I'm not sure if he's coming in yet. He's still yet to cross the line, it looks like.
Oh, wow, and I just noticed that Karl Modoff has already lost multiple positions. Johnston and Ruiz have come out ahead of him, so he's certainly got to be ahead of Christian Eisler after this pit stop is, or behind Christian Eisler after this pit stop is done. There's Modoff there and the pit timing on screen. Oh, but I think Eisler lost a little bit of time to those behind him. Herberneau and Watts came out very close behind our leader. In fact, yeah, it's gone down to 1.6 seconds to the number 92. Oh, and behind them, a spin. Raymond Day, coming out of pit lane, seems to have lost control of his car.
And we're going to jump back to replay here to check that out. This is the 77 of Day. You see him there exiting the pits. He's right in the middle of that big battle with everybody up in front of him. He is a lap down, however. So here he comes, coming to the outside of turn one, starts to put the power down there. You can see that tail end start to spin. Joey just got the throttle down too quick.
Easy mistake to do. They are very powerful cars. So what does this mean now that all the stops are done? Eisler is our leader. Herberneau's in second. Watts is in third. So those two have swapped positions between P2 and P3. Ruiz is still in fourth, and Modoff gets demoted down to fifth. And he is 14 seconds off the leader. That is just an incredible amount.
It's just insane from our leader that we had, as Justin Ream is now into the pits. The first of the non-Sean Romig category GTEs coming in. This is lap 19. I think we'll see the rest of this class starting to come in the next 1 or 2 laps. Ream, though, has been held up for a long time behind those guys in front of him, so clearly just trying to go on a little bit of an alternate strategy, seeing if that can get him the undercut to go by.
You can't get him on track, get him with strategy. We're heading up to the Russo battle here. Rafael Russo with Stephen Ash for P3. This has been going on almost since the very start of the race, frankly, between these two. Wasn't always for third position, but as Stephen Ash gets a mirror full of the number 14. Look who's joining them. Michael Ross. He is made good on his pace, and let's see if he can overtake where Russo could not.
He might be able to, as this is going to be a great example of what 3 different cars can do, as Porsche, Corvette, and GT, they're right in a line. Russo, though, able to power off the corner as they all start to go down that Ullman straight. The other thing I may be thinking of here, if I'm one of these drivers, is that I may want to peel into the pits here just a lap early, see if I can maybe catch a little bit of traffic right and see if the undercut can work for me. We'll have to see. They come through Sunset Bend here, all of them, 1, 2, 3. Nobody's going to take my advice, it looks like, so they're going to keep going for another lap.
Did get word that Kenny Rodriguez plans to be coming in, so we can see anybody else join him. He's in amongst a bunch of drivers who have already pitted, including, well, you mentioned his name before, Sean Romig. He was getting on the radio to let Sean know that he was coming in. There you see, that is Rodriguez in the 969 Corvette, just ahead of Romig's Porsche.
So he's going to be looked to dive in here, and good heads up from these drivers to indicate that to everybody. It just makes it so much easier. You know that that car is going to be slowing down right at the apex of Sunset, pulling into the pits. It lets you recalculate your line as there we see Rodriguez getting down to that 45-mile-an-hour speed limit and pulling himself into the pits. It's an absolute crawl when you're driving these cars coming down from these massive speeds to 45. But Rodriguez stops on his mark and starts to get fuel put in the car.
A few more of our mid-packers also in, as Aaron Webb and Prochaska also pitting. In fact, I think Prochaska potentially missed his pit stall. Someone I saw go way beyond and had to back up into it, unfortunately.
Now everybody's starting to cycle back out here. Ooh, this good run for these guys is they've got a nice bit of clean open track in front of them, so time to put in some hot lap times before any LMP2s start catching them.
Watching our leader, he's going to continue on. Ovando with, well, now a 5.8 second lead, so I wonder if traffic may be helped or if Alawi is picking it up. Well, Alawi's in. Our second place driver taking a slightly alternate strategy to Boris. Anybody else going to follow him? Yes, indeed. Stephen Ash is going to come in.
So there you see it. Who's going to be the first of the guys to come in as we watch here? Alawi comes in. Looks like he got on his marks perfectly cleanly. No problems there for that driver. Uthman just ready to go, waiting for all that fuel to be put into the car before he gets back on the loud pedal and gets back onto the track.
Be out there easily, with nobody challenging him for the time being. Didn't really have anybody from behind. There's more ahead that he is worried about. We're watching that battle between Russo and one of our other drivers. Well, Ash, I believe. Well, now he's got Ross instead, as they've been left by Ash, who pitted in. So the number 67 has it down to 9/10 of a second as they brake hard for Cunningham. They're going to be joined by Byron Daly in just a moment. That could cause a disruption in things.
It certainly could, but I think they're going to be lucky enough to catch at, well, maybe a little bit before the right time. You see them there working their way through the corners. I was hoping Daly was going to be able to catch them as they got to the Ullman Straight, but it looks like there he's going to be able to get it going through turn 15 on Ross. Excuse me, that's I think that's Tower, actually, my bad. As now they work their way into Le Mans, he's going to catch Russo perfectly, rather. That is Daly. There he goes out to the outside. That is the best place for an LMP2 to overtake. You don't have to lift, you don't have to alter anything, just keep the big loud pedal down. As looks like Ovando's in the pits.
So is he responding to Alawi? Alawi's coming through Jean Dembien himself right now. Ovando's still going to his pit stall. Sometimes it can take a while to get there. There he hits it in his Porsche. Alawi now partway down the Ullman Straight. His pit stop a 14.1 in his stall. Ovando, as the clock ticks up, a 13.9, very close between them. Not sure that that's going to be enough for Alawi to try and jump him in the pits, considering he was about 5.5 seconds back. And indeed, Ovando is out and running.
And so that's not going to change that order, but that battle for third is going to stay just as intense. Russo and Ross coming out of the pits now. Nothing between them as they come in. There you can see them, that Corvette and that GT. It looks like they have been. They're going to get sandwiched there as Stephen Ross goes by, or Stephen Ash rather, goes by Michael Ross, but Russo able to stay up in front. So that battle for third, a 3-car battle once again, Joe.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Russo was ahead of Ash, wasn't, or behind Ash rather, wasn't he?
I believe you
Or did I have it mixed around? I thought that Russo maybe had jumped him in the pits. Yeah, Russo was quicker in his stall by about a second over Ash too. So I think he may have gotten ahead of him just on strategy here. So Ross, who was trying to chase down Russo, has to switch gears. Now he's got the Porsche up in front of him instead. Just behind him, that is Valiokis. Now between them instead. The number 7 sitting in 7th appropriately. Kind of on his lonesome. Doesn't have anybody to fight currently, so he's trying to play it safe amongst them. He gets through both of them nice and clean.
And didn't really disrupt too much of that battle there between Ross and Ash, so that is certainly going to continue. But now he comes up behind Russo, able to slip right around him there before that heavy braking zone through those corners, so that's going to be good for him. That 15 complex as they work their way now through LeMans. Looks like Russo's been able to pull out about a 1.3 second advantage to Ash behind him, so that is certainly advantage Russo through the pit cycle.
Just an update, don't need to go to it. Romig had a spin out in the hairpin, and Matt Miller, unfortunately, who was trying to avoid it, slowed up, got bumped by an LMP2, and I think Mac had to take a tow because he is suddenly in pit lane, so he must have gotten some damage that was undrivable out of that interaction. So we hop on board with Ash, looking back at Ross, continuing to claw forward. It's down to 0.4 of a second here.
Keeping everything very, very close. These three drivers absolutely on par with one another. As there you've got another LMP2 starting to poke his way up into that mix, always throwing a wrench here.
So we thought that this would cause us a little bit more franticness between the two classes, but this last stage of the race is, well, not quite as frantic as I thought, but Ross is going to try to give us the excitement anyways, as he came from way back on Ash to see if he could pass into the hairpin. It didn't stick. Sure gave Ash a scare, I'm sure.
Yeah, Ash's heart's certainly in his mouth right now, but Ross showing that he has the speed and he has the tenacity to try to make the move. Sticks nice and tight here behind him through that twisting section out of Cunningham. So we'll have to see, can he make a move here? This is where those downforce differences, those different makes of car really come into effect on where each car is stronger.
So they have to make a little bit of way there as Leighton goes through Bishop, costs Ross a 10th or 2. That'll be a relief for Ash, I'm sure. On the Elman Straight, this is absolutely where you don't want someone breathing down your neck, and now Ash has plenty between himself and his rival, Cal Quinn. Is Cal Quinn going to catch him in time? Yes, he is. So Cal Quinn on by before they get to Sunset Bend.
And that pass could not have come at a worse time there for Michael Ross. Really, really blunting any of his momentum that he had, but he's able to claw back a little bit here, get that back into under a second, looking at about 7.5 tenths right now. So about 12 minutes to go here. That is anywhere but over.
Still have to keep your focus up, especially with the multiple classes racing. A little bit farther behind them, Francisco Montini is now the one leading the train, ahead of Avital and ahead of Rame. Trio fighting for 7th place. Avital in the midst of them there in the teal Porsche. Doesn't get the greatest of exits. Rame could be thinking about something here if he's very brave. He reels him in. He gets close, but as they hit the brakes, it looks like he's not close enough.
Yeah, we talked about just how difficult it is to actually make that pass in hairpin. You look at the track, you think it's going to be perfect, but it's a slightly off-camber corner, so very, very difficult. But woo, look at that speed that Rin's got. really, really, really able to keep it up as much as possible. There is nothing separating these guys. Watch for Ream to try to get a little gutsier here. 11 minutes to go. He knows it's now or never time, and he's got a very, very good shot at jumping up 2 positions.
They're pushing hard, both of them touching the wheels in the dirt ever so slightly, coming out of Tower Corner. And be careful, we saw what happened earlier with Romig on that one. They swing it by Jean Debienne and then try to get the power down coming out of LeMans, the critical corner leading onto the back stretch. Just not as good for Ream as it was for Avital, and that was costly.
Yeah, it looked like Rem just kind of let the car wander a little bit too far wide, maybe picked up a hair of oversteer and really had to jerk the steering wheel back to the right to try to get it back on the track, and that cost him just those hundredths of a second that wasn't allowing him to close enough. But there it looks like he's still right behind. God, these 3 drivers so closely matched in the closing stages of this race.
A little wide there for Avital. That could open the door. Here comes Ream. Looking on the inside, slight defense from Simon, just making sure that he forces Ream to have to work hard to get it if he even wants to try. Another go at it, another great exit for the 912. What has he got? Do we see a defense from Simon? He's holding the right side, leaves him just a lane, and Justin decides not to take it. They break down into hairpin. Could get the over-under. No, a little bit of wheel spin, unfortunately, for the 912 Porsche.
Yeah, just not able to get it done there. Really, really, really good defensive driving there to be able to hold that out and hold it out in just the right way from Avital. Not being aggressive, not cutting across the track, but placing the car exactly where it needs to be, and specifically coming at a hairpin, just delaying that put on the throttle ever so slightly to throw Justin Ream off his game a little bit, not able to maximize on corner exit. Really, really good heads-up stuff here from Simon Avital.
Credit to him for this defensive driving. I have to do it for 9 more minutes, though, the way that these 3, you said it before, are so closely matched on pace. Dove it in early, but Justin once again costing him on the exit of the corner. And although he'll have the slipstream, look at him try and snake his way down right in the tire tracks of the 34. Just isn't close enough because of that corner exit. They come up through Sunset Bend, tries to square it off instead this time, and it's not going to be enough.
No, not quite enough for Justin, but he's going to keep trying. He had a little bit of a run down the start-finish straightaway, tighter angle into the corner, able to get the power down a little bit faster. Good run, pokes his nose out, just making Avital think about it. Now he's going to try to just tuck up here behind, focus on getting a good run out of turn 3. He's got a great entrance. Can he keep the speed up here? A little bit too much curve there, I think, but he's still able to keep it nice and tight.
Doesn't look like Avital feels as threatened this time. He's not defending. Oh, but he's going to send it in way too deep. Don't think that's going to make the corner, and Justin Ream has to take to the escape road. Heads up move from Avital gave him just inches to spare as he squeaked through the inside. Let's watch that replay.
And as you watch this, oh, Montini very lucky, and Avital just the move of the race to be able to hit the brakes just right. I think honestly what happened there a little bit with Justin is that he dove it in, didn't exactly expect Montini to dive when he did down into that line, and that threw him off, locked up the fronts, and well.
I almost think that's driver highlights worthy for Avital making that avoidance. We jump up to Ash now, sitting in 4th place, just ahead of Ross. Ross probably wants at least a little better than a mere top 5 after his qualifying pace, but he's having a hard time doing this. Oh, and what happened to our LMP2 lead? I just looked up. Herbino has cut this in half. It was about 1.3 seconds for many, many laps. Wonder if Eisler made a mistake or maybe he just caught traffic poorly.
I'm I'm not sure, Joe. I was focused back on that GTE battle that we were watching so closely. As there you see a cone flying off the track. These drivers just moving the cars, taking everything they can. But here comes Herbino. He is going to be in the draft, hopefully be able to exploit it a little bit here, going down the Ullman Straight, ticking under 6.5 minutes to go. There is only about a half a second between these two drivers.
I'm looking at the lap times, and he's just chipping away. Look at that. There was only one lap where he was slower on lap 27. Other than that, in the last 5, he was consistently pulling in Christian Eisler, trying to his first win in who knows how many races. As they come through turn 1, 5 more minutes, but he's got the Benelux driver breathing down his neck.
And Herbino is not going to let this go by easy. There's a little bit of lap traffic. That's actually the remnants of the battle that we were keeping our eyes on. Federico Montini right ahead of them. As there you see, there goes Eisler out to the outside. Herbino right behind him. He's going to think about a move to the inside. He's going to think better of it, though, and tuck back in behind.
In the red and yellow glow of the setting sun here in Florida, Christophe Herbino. Do not believe we've seen him in the PRL series before. He could open up his stats with a win. He chases him down to Cunningham. Obviously, he's already thinking about attempting a pass as he took a look into hairpin. Will he get another shot at it? Will this have ruined his surprise? Will Eisler now start to go defensive as a small bobble out of tower cost Herbino a tenth or two?
Well, and just looking up the road, Joe, Nicholas Delp and Ted Lowendick are about 3.5 and 5.5 seconds up the road, respectively. So if Herbino's worried about trying to get the angle right, if I'm him, I'm really going to think about how can I get them to be used to my advantage? Can I set a pick? Maybe make Eisler have to back off a little bit if I think I can't get him just on raw pace.
Well, first up, they're coming up to Nick Delp. Then they'll have Ted Lowendick. I believe Lowendick's still in a little bit of a battle. They'll catch Delp at a perfect spot here coming off of Sunset Bend. One's going to get through. That's Eisler. Small compromise in line for Herbino, unfortunately. And you can see him just wash out wide and have to get out of it. Once again, though he was within range before, suddenly the complexion has changed completely. Now they get to the back of Lowendick, and this does check up Eisler.
Checks up Eisler ever so slightly. Sean Romig right in front of him. I think Eisler may catch him at the wrong moment. There he comes. Doesn't have to change the lane. Oh, but it looks like Herbino's going to get caught through the hairpin there. That's going to cost him precious tenths, but he's able to get back onto the power. Good move there from Romig, getting out of the way. This gap now back down to under half a second.
Brilliant stuff between the pair, having to push hard through this traffic. Neither one willing to give an inch. Next up, Justin Rame, 9th in that GTE class. I believe, let's see, they're doing 145. So yeah, they're going to have 2 to go at the line.
2 to go, couple of lapped cars. This is what it's all about in multi-class racing. There you see them working their way through. Christophe Herbino just absolutely stalking behind Eisler, trying to get it. He's got a good run there through those sweepers as they get onto LeMans and onto the back stretch. There's that draft coming into play, that gap coming down ever so slightly. 4.5 tenths, 4 tenths.
He's gaining. It's down to 3 tenths by the end of the straightaway. Eisler now sees the back of Justin as the lights pop on the cars. And, is he going to catch him in turn 1? This might not be good. They're both going to have to try and zip by pretty quickly. Good heads up from the 912 to give them space, although way off the apex. Christian Eisler now has only a car length and a half between himself and his rival. They come through turn 3 on the penultimate lap. He is very much in danger at this point. And Simon Avital is the next one up. How much is he aware of this close-knit fight for the lead?
Herbino getting very squirrely there, coming off of turn 5, coming through Big Bend, though. They're nice and clean. Herbino right in behind, not went and make a move yet. I think he sees Avital ahead, going to try to use him potentially. There they go. Avital not changing lines. Here comes Eisler on the outside. Herbino right behind him. They dispatch with Avital easily. No time lost in between the two.
And still it doesn't end. Now they've got Francisco Montini. Urbano waiting, watching. He knows an opportunity could come. He doesn't need to be desperate quite yet. Just keeps himself within range. Just about 2/10 behind our leader, Christian Eisler, easily by Montini. And then it's up to Dzube next, but they've got a gap a couple corners before they will catch that next GTE. This is much closer than what we saw last time. Urbano knows it. He's going to have the slipstream, and that was actually Dzube, who was off course, so he's going to lose positions with that wreck. That was self-made, his own error. Defending to the inside, Christian Eisler makes Urbano look the long way around, but he tries for the over-under as they break into the corner. Elicits an error out of Christian Eisler and makes it a drag race down the front stretch, almost banging wheels, tries to get out to the outside wall as Urbano, once again, gonna go the long way around through turn 1. He's got the nose ahead this time, but it's gonna be around the outside of turn 3, breaking deep into the corner. Here comes Eisler back at him, and they actually come together. It sends Eisler off the course, and I think that's gonna net Urbano the lead. Yes, Eisler struggling to get the car straight.
Oh my goodness gracious, talk about an amazing half a lap there from Eisler and Urbano. And that is Urbano now fully in the lead. Eisler now, though, gonna try to keep on going. If he got any wheel damage, though, that's Owen Watts right behind him. Only a couple of tenths of a second behind Andrew Ruiz. So this is not over for Eisler. If he's got damage, he may lose a podium.
He's got to hope those two are going to fight, and they might just because Watts got held up, and Ruiz knows it. He's going to stick his nose down to the inside of Cunningham, manages to get to the inside of the number 18, and that will let him third place. 1.5 seconds to try to get up to the leader, and only half a lap to do it. Up to second place, rather. Meanwhile, up at the lead, it is Urbano with 5.3 seconds. The white flag has been waved. We were so focused on the race. They didn't mention that this is the final lap. He's trying to go by Michael Ross, who's in his own fight still, trying to steal the draft from Christoph to see if he can get by Stephen Ash, but it doesn't look like that's quite going to work for him. Christoph Urbano, starting from 4th on the grid in his first race ever for PRL, is going to take the win here in Florida.
Mega run from Urbano. He has got to be so excited as we jump back, though. Good battle here with Ross and Ash to get across the line.
And in the final corner, a mistake from Ash did it. I thought he was too far back, but Steven handed it to him on a silver platter. As looks like we should get quite a lap for Ovando to come around. Very close fight for 6 as Johnston verily nicks that spot away from Valiopoulos. Ovando in the 22, on screen, has 5.9 seconds ahead of Alawi. Utman just wondering what could have been.
If he just hadn't had that error, I think he very well could have done it. You see him there, Alawi going by. He has pretty much matched Ovando pace for pace this entire race. Really, that error depriving us of what would have been an amazing battle between the two.
5.4 seconds, and the gap was at its biggest, 6.8. Meanwhile, Flanagan having a nice little fight just ahead of them. This is to the line for 14th. He's going to beat Prochaska to the line. Meanwhile, the Porsche of Boris Ovando. Another one rocking up for his first ever PRL race. Seems like it is the year, I guess the season of the rookies, because the 22 opens up his stats with a win as Boris Ovando takes victory at Sebring.
Just a flawless drive there from Ovando as there comes Alawi across the line as well in second. Russo then the GTE ready to cross in as well, just powering through now.
And I think Russo is going to run out of fuel here as he's very slow down to the line. We're going to take a break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so don't go away. Welcome back to Sebring International Raceway as we watch the beautiful sunset here in Florida. It was Christophe Herbinot who took the victory. Even though he didn't have the qualifying pace, he clearly is quick out on the track, denying Christian Eisler a return to the top step of the podium. You got a feel for the guy. He started second, though, and he finished second, so no loss, no gain. Felipe Ruiz rounding out the podium with Owen Watts finishing in fourth, ahead of Karl Modov, who had some strange fuel issues. We'll need to try and get to the bottom of that. It put him in fifth. Nicholas Johnson was P6 and Marius Valiokas in seventh. Horatio Calquin with a P8 was ahead of Dawson Brock. Despite having a few scary moments along the way, he climbed from 13th to 9th. Josh Wolf, his teammate behind him, wound up in 10th. Byron Daly was P11 and the last driver on the lead lap amongst the LMP2s. Jared Turnbull was 12th. Tien Sai C. Layton finished 13th, and Raymond Day was the last of the finishers among the prototypes in 14th.
Boris Angel Ovando putting in an absolutely flawless drive to P1 in the GTEs. Utman Alawi suffering from an early mistake, but matching pace with Ovando the entire race, able to bring the car home in second in those GTEs. And Rafael Russo able to come home third. Behind them, those battles we were keeping an eye on the entire race. Michael Ross in 18th overall, followed by Stephen Ass and Francisco Montini. Behind him, Simon Avatal. We saw those mistakes from him, but able to still put in a very, very solid drive. Tyler Dzube, Justin Ream, and Sean Romig behind him. 10 Lowendick able to bring the car home in 11th in class. Nicholas Delp, and Federico Montini behind him in 13th in class. David Flanagan, 14th in class. Harrison Proshaka in 15th, followed by Aaron Webb, 30th overall. Behind him, Kenny Rogers, 31st, Brett Barrett, 32nd, and series founder Jerome there in 33rd, 19th in class. Behind him, Mac Miller, 34th, 35th was Nicholas Borand. Daniel Ziegers coming in with massive damage, unable to complete the race. Alessandro De Tullio in 37th, Ricardo De Matteo, 38th, and bringing up the back of the field, Brian Borche in 39th.
And it looks like we've got our winner in the GTE cars ready to talk to us, Boris Angel Ovando. Boris, I have to admit, that was an impressive run for what, as far as we can tell, is your very first PRL race. Did you expect to be this successful coming in?
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. That was a big surprise in my first PRL race. I didn't expect it. We knew we had good pace, but I wasn't expecting a victory in the first round.
Well, you managed to snag it, and it seems like you had a little bit of help with Utman having a mistake that handed the lead back to you. If he hadn't have had that error, do you think you could have tried to challenge him?
It was unfortunate, but you have to capitalize on those mistakes, and that's exactly what I did.
That you did, and certainly allowed you to kick things off in style there. So this is a bit of an interesting track because of both the technical nature and fast straights, but also the bumps. So when we go to Watkins Glen in a couple weeks' time, can you transition and keep that pace up to make it a back-to-back?
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to trying. I can tell you that this is my first time with RSR, really delving into the car and getting used to it. I'm really more used to the M8, but I wanted to try something new. So I'm definitely looking forward to Watkins Glen. That's one of my favorite tracks.
Well, congratulations on the victory. Is there anybody you want to thank for taking this home tonight?
Definitely, I want to thank the team, RSR. Without their support, definitely make things a lot harder. Our sponsors, G Performance, Velasquez Engineering, Bud Kicker, and FHN. Without their support, it'll be tough to make things happen as well. So I want to thank those guys.
Great stuff there from Boris Ovando. And the man that he beat to the line was Utman Alawi, where it seems that DJ Clark has caught up with him.
Utman, you looked like you had the pace for Boris the entire night, but obviously that's early lap error costing you out. This has got to be a bit heartbreaking, but at least heartening to know that you had the pace to be running with the leader.
Oh yeah, for sure. The car was performing amazing for my first ever league race, It was absolute blast to drive, and Boris was a great challenge to race against. I learned a lot from him. Overall, yeah, the mistake cost me, but hey, it's something that I can take away to improve and make myself better for the next race. So as long as I'm not making those mistakes again, I can live with this one for now.
I think that's a great attitude to take about it. It looks a lot like the Porsches may be the cars to beat this year. Both of you guys coming home in that. Talk to me about how the Porsche was handling out there.
Well, the interesting thing about the Porsche is that it has a really loose rear end, but if you can get it to rotate through the center of the corner, you can gain all the time that you lose by braking early. So overall, I think it's a really driver-oriented car. You can gain a lot of time from driving it correctly, but you can also lose a lot of time from driving it incorrectly. And I think the RSR boys, we really nailed the setup. And as you saw by the 1-2 finish for our team, that the Porsche was handling amazing for us. Obviously, by the end of the day, I don't have any problems with it.
Well, fantastic. We look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks at Watkins Glen. But before we let you go here tonight, anybody you need to thank?
Oh, first, I think the team owner of RSR eSports, Anthony Pisano. He's the one who brought me onto the team, and obviously, it's great to achieve so much so soon. Thanks to him. Vasquez Engineering. He's been providing us with the support for this series, as well as G Performance. They've been a great partner for us throughout the past weeks that we've been preparing. And so I hope that we can bring them a lot more success in the upcoming races, especially next week at Watkins Glen. Or, my bad, next 2 weeks.
You scared me there for a second. I had to double check my calendar. But Utman, congratulations again, man. Great second place.
Yeah, sure. Only can build up from there.
Exactly. Joe?
That looks like that's going to round out our interviews for tonight. So we, of course, want to thank our sponsors before we take off. SimMSA, Simulation Motorsports Affinity, can be found at SIMMSA.net. And then, of course, a longtime sponsor for the PRL, NinjaTrader. They are at NinjaTrader.com. And then if you've got a sim rig and want to spruce it up, don't forget the Butt Kicker. They are at thebuttkicker.com themselves. Also, thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. We've listed them on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen to check out her Bandcamp page. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com or check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Gram. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. We've got a link in the description below. But while you're down there, make sure and subscribe to the channel just by clicking that subscribe button. The next race, as we mentioned, heading over to New York for Watkins Glen. That'll be Tuesday, January 5th in the new year at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on your screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.